Hi, guys, welcome back. Imagine going to your doctor's office for a routine refill on your medication, and then all of a sudden he starts fat shaming you. Today's YouTuber is Kendra L. Saunders, and she's going to share that very story. Hope you enjoy.
Up at my appointment. I waited a very long time, whatever. Again, that's something that you deal with, unfortunately, in a big city and when you're on Medicaid. But I was there, again, I was there just for a routine visit to get my Zoloft refilled. And I told the nurse that when I talked to her, and the nurse was wonderful. She was so lovely. I told her, I'm just there to get Zoloft refilled. I don't have any other health concerns I'm there about, like just there for that one thing. We went through the depression and anxiety checklist thing, and my numbers were better than they had been the time before, which was great because, my depression has been better. When I actually sat down with the doctor, I told him the same thing. I said, I'm just here for a routine medication refill, like nothing else. And he was treating it as like a physical. So he was going down the list of all the questions he would ask at a physical. At one point, he asked me, when were you last checked for pre-diabetes? And I said, never. I've never been checked for it. I thought he would just go to the next question. And he's like, why? Why haven't you? And I said, because I haven't needed to. Why would I? Why would I get checked for it? I don't need to. And he said, why haven't you gotten checked for it though? And we were just kind of looking at each other. And this was a time where normally I would have just let it go and just taken it in and whatever. But I decided to just say something. And I'm like, why are you asking me that? Do you ask everyone that? And he said, motioning at me, he's like, well, people with your BMI, it's a fat person thing. So if you are overweight and your BMI is high, you're going to be asked about diabetes. I told him I have no concern about diabetes and I don't need to get tested for it. And he still insisted that I needed to get tested for it soon.
So this one's really interesting. She goes in there to get a prescription medication refill, okay, and I assume it's for her depression situation. She has Medicaid, it's in the big city. The part that I didn't show on this video was just a couple minutes where she was describing that every time she went to this place, she saw a different doctor. So it's not like she had a relationship with this doctor prior. But one of the things that we kind of wish our doctors would do more is instead of coming in and treating us like a number and being out of the room 30 seconds later, right? We kind of wish they would actually ask us these type of questions. What's interesting is when I look at her, she doesn't particularly look overweight, but we know sometimes that view that you get from the shoulders up can be deceiving, right? I think this is one of those things where you have to say, Kendra, she wasn't a coworker, or your doctor wasn't some coworker asking you something in the lobby of a restaurant at lunch, right? It was your doctor asking you and looking out for what I assume was your best interests. If you agree with me, let me know down in the comments, and if you don't, maybe still let me know.
Because of my BMI. I didn't go in there telling them that, I'm having any symptoms or concerns about anything related to diabetes. He didn't ask me what are my eating habits like. He didn't ask me any of those things. He asked me if I exercise, and I said yes. Well, at the end of the visit, I got this pamphlet. And under today's visit, first he wrote chronic depression, which I had told him that my depression was better, but whatever. And the second thing he wrote was class 2 obesity due to excess calories. The reason for my visit was never that I was fat, and we never discussed whether I was fat because of excess calories. He doesn't know anything about my eating habits. He didn't ask me anything about my eating habits. There's some super helpful information in here, by the way. Patient preference and functional lifestyle goals. Cut out extra servings. Choose healthy snacks. Eat more fruits and vegetables. Increase physical activity. Reduce portion size. He also included this incredible paperwork with this graphic. And this says, obesity is having too much body fat. BMI is a number that explains how much body fat you have. Obesity is often caused by taking in more calories than your body uses. And then they include some helpful tips like cut down on fast foods, sweets, and processed snack foods. Choose low-fat options. Eat 5 or more servings of fruits or vegetables per day. Eat at home more often. This gives you more control over what you eat. Choose healthy foods when you eat out. Learn what a healthy portion size is. The problem with this whole thing is that a doctor is looking at me and assuming that because I'm over a certain weight, I must eat in a certain way. I must behave in a certain way. I must live a certain way. They could look at somebody who was thin or was like a healthy BMI, and they wouldn't ask them, how's your diet? Have you been checked for prediabetes? They wouldn't give them a pamphlet that tells them to stop eating so much fast food.
One of my favorite books, and you guys have probably read this. Have you ever read a little Sherlock Holmes? One of the things Sherlock Holmes was famous for is he would go up to Watson or anybody for that matter, and he would say, "You ate a pancake today and you had a burger at lunch, right?" And they would be like, "How did you understand? How did you know that?" Right? And he would basically tell them the clues from the crumbs on their chest to the smell of beef broth on their breath, right? And he would be able to tell them their day based on just what he saw from them. If your doctor is there and he feels like while looking at you, he's refilling your prescription for depression medicines, I could see him or her maybe wanting to talk with you about your obesity, but maybe they're a newer doctor and don't quite know the best way to do that. This story here really gives me troubles because I totally see where Kendra's coming from, but I also can see where a doctor could maybe be watching a couple YouTube videos and think to himself, I need to start asking my patients more questions. We need to get more involved. And let me give you another quick scenario. Let's say 2 or 3 months down the line, she had like a heart attack, and hopefully she never has one, right? But let's say she did. I can imagine her family member saying, Kendra, how come when you went to see the doctor the last time a couple months ago, they didn't think to ask you about your BMI and your high blood pressure and your cholesterol? So sometimes we live in a world where we're damned if we do, damned if we don't. So I totally see where she's coming from, but I also see where the doctor's coming from. So I'm a little torn.
The problem is there are many people that have very unhealthy eating habits that are thin. And there are plenty of people that are my size that have very healthy eating habits, but are possibly, like me, recovering from a very serious eating disorder. And when you hear things like this, it does things to your mind. And I know that for me, I felt so just embarrassed and ashamed and awful sitting there that I felt like I wanted to cry. And then the first thing that started going through my head was that old voice saying, like, shouldn't eat for the rest of the day. You should probably just not eat for the rest of the day. That kind of thing can be so triggering to people with eating disorders or people that are recovering from eating disorders. Doctors have got to take more time if they're going to bring things like that up to get to know the person, to find out, is it maybe the medication you're taking? Like, for instance, the Zoloft that you're here refilling right now. Might that be the reason? They need to ask with more empathy about your lifestyle before assuming that the reason you're fat is because you eat too many calories.
Again, she brings up some excellent points. She mentioned something that I don't know if most people think about, but when you're on Medicaid, a lot of times your options for doctors are limited to offices that work with Medicaid. And I have a feeling when you work with those doctors that accept Medicaid, probably a lot of times you're going to get a newer doctor that doesn't necessarily have a ton of experience. If you have anything to do with the nursing or the medical field and you can weigh in on this, let me know. But again, I just have a feeling this doctor had nothing but good intentions for her, but I totally once again see where she's coming from. Guys, I'm the guy online that likes to get everybody to walk with me. If you want to walk with me, I think it's great for your health, both physically and mentally. So why don't you guys go get your shoes? Let's go for a walk. Good morning, venters. Listen, I have a request, and I don't like doing these type of requests because frankly, I don't like when other YouTubers do this, but you'll notice at the beginning of a lot of YouTube videos, people will ask their followers and stuff to give each video a thumbs up and to subscribe because, good morning, because if you put a thumbs up on a video and subscribe and leave a comment. Yeah, what's going on?
Walk, talk, and what?
Vent. Walk, talk, vent.
Vent, okay.
Check it out. Become a venter with us.
Well, I was trying, but I forgot the last word.
And then I have commas between the words. So walk, comma, talk, comma, vent. Hey, and then leave a comment if you would. That'll be awesome. Have a great day. Hey, he's ready to become a venter. How cool is that? So anyway, that leads me to what I was going to tell you. So there's one guy that's probably going to go in and subscribe, right? So the reason I ask, about 2.5, 3 weeks ago, I was invited. Oh my God. Guys, the other person was not 2 cents. He just looks like 2 cents because this is 2 cents and his dog. Anyway, I got something to tell you. Oh, 2 cents waved. Good morning. Yeah, and we want you to join our channel. Would you be interested? I'm just trying to get people to walk.
I don't even have any apps.
Oh, you do? Okay. All right, well, either way, still good to say hi to you. Have a good morning, okay? Oh my God, guys, I literally just got chills. That's 2 cents. The other guy is nickel and dime, but they look alike. But either way, he was nice today. I'm literally got chills. He's nice today. The other guy's asking about walk, talk, vent. And now I've got LeBeau coming up. This is weird. Sometimes you feel like somebody up above puts you into these situations where you walk at just the right time. But you could tell that 2 cents had a smile on his face as he asked if I was an influencer. And now we have LeBeau, the red venter. How are you, LeBeau? All right, so back to what I was saying. Let's see if LeBeau says good morning. This is a good start to the day. Good morning. All right, so let me get back to what I was saying. Guys, I got invited to join the YPP, the YouTube Partner Program, about 2.5, 3 weeks ago because I hit 500 subscribers or 400 subscribers and I hit 3,000 watch hours. But I actually hit 4 or 5, I'm up to like 6,000 watch hours. Like people really do watch Walk, Talk, Vent a lot. But the last week or so, my views have basically been cut down to nothing because they're not pushing the videos out. And the reason I say this is because I wasn't ready to join up for the YouTube Partner Program. I really wasn't. And I'm still not. You know, you guys got to remember, even though I've been doing this now for going on 5 months, and even though I've got all these videos up, it's because I keep pushing out a video every day. Sometimes you still feel brand new. You know, I look at it like a college basketball player. Sometimes you're very good at college basketball, but it doesn't necessarily mean you should leave your senior year and go to the NBA draft. Sometimes you need that extra year of college. Sometimes you might even need a year or two in the G League or the minor leagues before you're ready to make that jump. But either way, I feel like if I don't go ahead and accept the monetization, that they're not going to really push out my videos anymore. And my goal is to get the world walking. So I was hoping you guys could help me perform a test by, leaving a comment, thumbs upping. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe, because golly, I feel like I'm being forced to monetize my videos. And don't get me wrong, I know that that's the overall goal, but I just wanted to wait a little bit until I got my banner and stuff on my channel, which I did get done. I got a lot of stuff done with my descriptions on how I describe videos. And these are all things that I wanted to do and get down before I applied. But I feel like I'm being forced. But I know that my venters watch my show pretty religiously, and a lot of times you guys do leave thumbs up and comments. So again, if you guys haven't yet, please do so. I want to see if this particular video can get more than 30 or 40 views. It literally went from my videos getting 300, 400, 500 to all of a sudden the last like 5 in a row have been like capped at like 50. And it's a little discouraging, not because I'm upset that 50 people are watching, because hell, I was expecting my first year to have 50 people watch, you know? But at the same time, if people enjoy the video and it's not being shared by anybody, you know, that puts me in a not so fun type place. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and apply, but again, if you guys could kind of do this little test for me, and if you don't like the video, because Jesse's begging or something, then put a down arrow and leave a negative comment. But the point is, I want to see if things can change, because it just seems weird that a lot of my videos were pushed out to people looking for fitness and weight loss channels, and now not so much. I have a good little story that I wanted to share with you, but let's be honest, wasn't that a weird start to the day? Nickel and dime, Sean and Mala, is different than 2 cents. 2 cents' dog looks like a German Shepherd that has no gold or no black colored fur. 2 cents' dog looks like some dog that's almost he almost looks like a black and white dog in a colored world. Like a black and white TV. He's got a weird color to him. And yeah, and he's slightly different. But how do those two guys look so much alike? Sean, you even said the other day, I think 2 cents and nickel and dime are the same person. But they're not, they're different. But either way, the last time we saw 2 cents, he was mooning the camera. And then today he's waving, saying hello. So that just goes to show you guys that sometimes when we get angry at people, we're really angry at the person they are when they wake up on the wrong side of the bed. Right? Because remember the other day I was like, oh, maybe 2 cents is sober. No, not at all. 2 cents probably has a fun-loving nature and likes to poke fun at people. Where nickel and dime was probably like, why the hell is he calling me 2 cents? All right, guys, so I'm going to tell you guys another Jeff story. And I think this will give you an idea of how sometimes friends, when we try to reconnect with them, sometimes it's a different friend than what we had before. So when I was in 5th grade, my best friend in the world was a kid named Jeff. I showed you guys his house a couple weeks back. He was the type of friend that any type of challenge or any type of video game that you wanted to stay up, you know, all night long. You know when you have friends stay over when you're little, you'll play Monopoly all night long just because you want to stay up and have as much fun as you can, even if it means you don't sleep. So Jeff was the type of friend that when he spent the night, you could play Monopoly till 4 in the morning. You could play video games till 2 or 3 in the morning. You could sneak out of your house and walk around the block at 2 or 3 in the morning. He was just there for every fun thing that you could imagine doing as a 10 or 11-year-old kid. In 6th and 7th grade, I end up picking up with my mom. We move out of my grandmother's house. We move to Mesa, Arizona. During those 2 years, I would occasionally have Jeff come out and visit, spend the night on a Friday and a Saturday, and we'd take him back on a Sunday. But those times when he would spend the night were far and in between. It would be a situation where maybe once every 2 or 3 months, he would spend the night. So we went from hanging out every day at school, every day after school, and then every weekend at each other's houses spending the night, to only seeing each other once in a blue moon. Now fast forward to 8th grade, I moved back to my grandmother's house and back into a situation where me and Jeff can be friends again. But think about the difference between 8th grade and 5th grade. In 5th grade, Jeff and I had the same homeroom class, and we were literally in class with each other the whole day, which is really fun when you're best friends with somebody, right? But from 8th grade on, we didn't have one single class together. There really isn't a homeroom situation when you're in middle or high school. You have your individual classes that you go to each hour. And we didn't have any friends together. So in 8th grade, all of a sudden we're friends and we're walking to school, but from that point on, we didn't see each other throughout the rest of the day. Well, one particular 8th grade day, we had a half day, which I'm still really fond of half days. So we go to Burger King for the half day, and not only do me and Jeff go to Burger King, but the whole darn school went to Burger King. I don't know how the word got out, but either way, the goal was to all meet at Burger King for the half day. So school gets out at 10:30 or 11, whatever the time was, and we all start heading down to Burger King. We go to Burger King, we start eating, and there is the biggest, meanest looking biker dude eating with, I presume, his sister. And they're just sitting there eating the burger, kind of noticing as kids walk by, right? And all of a sudden, Jeff is walking down an aisle. Now keep in mind, this tough looking biker is sitting in a chair facing his sister. And all of a sudden, Jeff walks right by him. So the guy's face is right here and he's looking at his sister, and Jeff's right here standing behind him. And no joke, out of the blue, Jeff lifts up his butt cheek. I know that sounds weird, right? But he extends his knees, so he's lifting up his butt cheek like so, and he proceeds out of nowhere, with no warning, to rip the nastiest, wettest sounding fart right in this guy's ear/face. And I mean, it was the type of fart that sounded so gross, so liquidy, that you know there had to be some pretty gnarly odor there. And it was loud enough where people could hear. So all of a sudden you've got a grip of 8th graders, probably a couple 7th graders in there too. And all of a sudden they're laughing and giggling. And this biker dude just looked at my friend and basically said something along the lines of, "You rude son of a bitch. I ought to kick your beep," you know? And it was funny because, is that rude? Yes. Is that something worth laughing about as an adult? Not really, but as an 8th grader, it kind of made my buddy like a legend. At least among the nerdy, goofy kids like myself, right? So it made him this legendary character, not long term, just for that day, just that act, right? He was still considered not so popular. But it just kind of showed you that he was the type of kid that could just do anything. Did Jesse just tell us a story about an 8th grader farting in a guy's face? Yes, I did, because those are the type of things that when you're little, they make you laugh like crazy, and you absolutely just, you can't help but be happy when you're in that state of mind and your friend just busted out a fart in some guy's face. If an adult did that to another adult, there's a good chance my buddy would have been taken outside and had his clock cleaned, right? Not something we would recommend adults do. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't recommend my teenage son do that to a man, because there are guys out there that don't care that you're underage. They'll still go and beat you down. So not something I would recommend. So anyway, why do I start my story with this? Well, a lot of you guys might remember about 10, 11, 12 years ago, we all started joining Facebook. We all started hearing about this great platform where people could reconnect with their college, high school, and heck, even your grade school buddies that you honestly thought you were never going to reach again. And I think some people forget this when it comes to Facebook. The reason that Facebook is so neat is it gives you a chance to literally reconnect with people that otherwise you would have never ever reconnected with again. Isn't that crazy? To give you an idea, I had a best friend named John who was my best friend in like 3rd grade, like 2nd and 3rd grade. And I was able to reconnect with John in 2012 as an adult. You know, and I can remember when I sent him a little message like, "Hey, John, I don't know if you're the same John that I was friends with in 3rd grade, but did you go to this school?" And, you know, and I told him this school here, the one that I went to. And come to find out, I found the right John. Now, here's the funny thing. When I look at my Facebook friends, I don't think he's my friend anymore. I think he probably slowly but surely decided we're not friends anymore and unfriended me. But for at least a year, I was reconnected with some really old school friends. And I'm sure you guys had situations like that too. But what happens when we reconnect with our best friend from junior high or high school or college on Facebook, and now we're 25 years older? Well, what you quickly realize is that they're okay when they're a Facebook friend and you can say hi to them every once in a blue moon, when you can wish them a happy birthday on their birthday. But a lot of times what you'll find out is probably the same thing that I found out, that when you have 2, 3, 4 decades in between now and the last time you were friends with them, you're always going to be friendly with them, but you're not necessarily meant to be their friend for life. And that's what happens with people all the time. You reconnect with Sheila from high school, and then you slowly realize, well, Sheila, she's kind of the opposite of me. I'm this way politically, she's that way. I have kids, she's permanently single. I like to go to church, she's not really into that, right? And pretty soon you realize, well, even though me and Sheila were like sisters, 30 years ago when we were in school, now we really have nothing in common. And I'm sure you guys all have situations like that, right? Where maybe an old high school buddy reconnected with you. They ask you if you want to go meet for lunch someday. Maybe you say yes, maybe you say no, but either way, even if you do go meet with them, it's not necessarily going to rekindle that old friendship. Well, when I moved back in 8th grade, that's how Jeff Calloway and I were. I enjoyed his time still, but the things that I found hilarious and funny as a 5th grader and even a 6th grader, I didn't necessarily find that funny as an 8th or 9th grader. And then as high school proceeded and I stayed at our high school and he and his family moved to North Carolina, that just created an even bigger divide. So you fast forward to like 2013, 2014, and all of a sudden I get a friend request from Jeff. I almost said his last name. And to be honest with you, I don't even know which way it went. It might have been him sending me a request, or it might be me sending him a request, but either way, he was my good buddy from grade school. Of course, I would want to still be his friend. As an adult, I had him, his wife, and his kids come and stay with me and my wife and family at my house for a week when he was on vacation. So I did see this guy as an adult, but as an adult, I started to notice I didn't really like the way that he addressed his wife at the time. I didn't really like the way that he addressed his kids. He had one of these demeanors, and I'm sure you guys have seen this, where when he talked, he didn't really have a smile in his voice. He had a growl in his voice. And you could tell he was one of these guys that when it came to his family, he had them in a grip of respect that wasn't really based on respect. I think it was based on fear. And it reminded me of his dad growing up, because with me and Jeff, when we would hang around his house, man, we were really free-loving and having a lot of fun all the time. And for some reason, his dad would constantly growl at him and get in his face in a way like he was doing something horrible and he was about to get his butt kicked by his dad. I've never really liked parenting like that. It's one thing to tell your kid you're being too loud. It's another thing to get him right in front of his face and then, kind of threaten and intimidate him in front of his friends. And that's what this guy would do to Jeff. And I started noticing as an adult that that's how Jeff kind of controlled his kids and his wife too. And so it just didn't really come across as fun-loving Jeff. I felt like he had kind of turned into his dad. And while I liked his dad from afar, right, he was the dad of my good buddy and my best friend, I didn't see him as somebody that I would want to be in a room alone with. Not because he was some bad pervert person, but he just had like that growl in his voice. And those are type of people that I wouldn't recommend any kid be in a room with alone. You know what I mean? So anyway, all of a sudden, fast forward to the last handful of years, all of a sudden you have a situation where Jeff goes on to divorce his wife. He becomes estranged from not only his wife, but his kids, come to find out through Facebook that he's kind of estranged from his family as well. You know, his mom was friends with me on Facebook just to kind of see if she could hear about Jeff and his dealings through me. And I quickly let her know that, you know, me and Jeff aren't really friends like that anymore. But the point is somewhere in his adult life, Jeff started going off the edge. He started getting mental illness issues, where a lot of people might have mental illness from a natural point of view. In other words, they get older, they develop bipolar, they develop manic depressiveness, they develop schizophrenia. That would be the category I would put my Uncle David into. With Jeff Calloway, it could have been that same thing, but I wouldn't know, because I feel like his craziness was induced by really bad drug addiction. The guy would call me out of the blue and start talking about how he needed Adderall and how he needed this drug and he needed that drug and how he was buying street drugs. And it's like, you know what? I don't find these things cool topics to talk about. You know, because at the time I was like in my late 30s or mid 30s. And it's like, I don't really like having these talks. I mean, it was basically like talking to your 21-year-old friend that's like, you know, slowly but surely becoming an alcoholic and doing drugs. Sometimes you like that if you're in that lifestyle, but I've never really been in that lifestyle. Those people never really are a turn on to me where I want to be in their presence. And all of a sudden, when you tell your old friend, you know, okay, have a good night, and you don't go out of your way to talk to them right away, people with mental illness, especially if it's drug-induced, they can take that the wrong way. And he very much did. All of a sudden, instead of calling and me saying goodbye and the conversation being over, all of a sudden he was calling me 38 times an hour. And oh yeah, by the way, he's doing that at 2 or 3 in the morning. You know? And so all of a sudden you get to a point where it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to have to block you on Facebook. I'm going to have to block you on my phone, because if a guy's not going to respect that you don't like having crazy talk at 2 in the morning all the time, you know, then they're going to go out of their way to just annoy you. So at first I'm seeing it as an annoyance, but then all of a sudden after you block somebody, you can still kind of scroll down and see some of the messages they left you. And man, some of these messages he would leave me were like practically demonic. You know, stuff like, you know, hey, you're really starting to piss me off, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to wipe the floor with you, you know, and it's like, geez Louise, who the heck is this character? You know, so all of a sudden it's like, my goodness, he's not really being a friend. He's being a foe or an enemy, you know? And it's one of those things where if you ever have somebody that's kind of done that flip where they go from being your childhood best friend to some weird, crazy character that's threatening you, that's weird. Now, because of my experience with family members having drug addictions, with my family members having mental illness, right? I got to see both worlds through my family. I can actually take a look at the Jeff situation and I can say, well, you know what? He's not in his right mind. I need to be forgiving, so I don't hold ill will towards the guy. But at the same time, if you try to shoot me a random Facebook message nowadays and it says, hey, how you doing? And you kind of act like all those horrible things you said never happened. You know, I don't just look beyond that and say, oh, we're past that. I say, what are you, in denial? Do you know what the heck you said to me? But instead, the way I answer it is I just don't reply. I don't need to be friends with, you know, Jeff from 5th grade. You know, sometimes we as people, we feel obligated to have certain people in our lives. I always tell you guys, open the heart for your children. If you're kind of estranged from your kids, make sure you keep the front door open for them at all times, right? But even that comes with an asterisk. You know, what if your son is a hardcore drug addict and every single time you have him in your house, what if he robs you blind? You can't keep a purse in a house with your son because he's so addicted to drugs, he's going to steal everything. And believe me when I tell you, a lot of us have had family members like that. It's not always a son, sometimes it's a brother, sometimes it's an uncle, whatever the situation might be. Sometimes it's a niece or a daughter. But if you have somebody that you love like a family member, and every time you have them in the house, they steal everything and make your life miserable. Maybe they even break furniture and do destruction. Those are people that you eventually have to say, I love you. I hope you go to rehab. I hope you get, your life changed. But until you do, I can't have you in this house. That happens in life. So if you have to occasionally kick out a family member, then who the hell is a friend that you had when you were 10 years old? They are nothing. So a lot of times when we have good friends, it's hard for us to imagine cutting those people out of our lives. But you want to know something? When an alcoholic drinks and they're hateful and they don't want to sober up, you're not dealing with the same friend. You're dealing with the crazy version of your friend. When somebody's on drugs and they don't want to sober up, and they call you every third day when they're kind of in a decent situation, they're halfway wasted, right? That's not cool to me. I don't want to talk to people in that situation because, number one, if I were to hang out with people, then all of a sudden I'm associating with alcoholics and drug addicts and crazy people. That's not my deal. If anybody out there loves to be Captain Save-A-Crazy, you can be Captain Save-A-Crazy, but I don't recommend it to anybody. I think you should surround yourself with positive, uplifting people that have goals in their life, that empathize and look out for others, that have a charitable heart, that legitimately try to be good people. But it's darn near impossible to do that when you surround yourself with leeches and negative and borderline evil people. You have to be equally yoked. So again, if you have some people that are toxic friends, that are bringing you down, that you've reconnected with and you've quickly found out that they're not worth reconnecting to, well, you owe it to yourself and your eternal internal happiness. You owe it to yourself to go ahead and cut that branch off. That's my opinion. Now, if that branch looks you in the face in the future and says, you know what? I had a lot of drug problems, but I've been sober for a decade. I've been sober for 5 years. I'd like to reconnect with you if you're open to it. Then at that point, I could say, you know what? I forgive you. Let's move forward. Let's be friends. But at the same time, you don't have to be friends with anybody that you don't want to. Anyway, thanks for letting me talk with you guys. I hope you enjoyed that story. One of those stories where I wish some of us truly could be best friends for life, but sometimes it's just not meant to be. Have a beautiful day.